On this Earth Day, we are highlighting how we can help protect the environment by changing our daily habits. And one of them is simply replacing plastic water bottles with reusable ones. According to earthday.org, humans buy about 1 million plastic bottles per minute, but only 23% of them get recycled within the United States. That means the rest are ending up in our streets, our waterways, and even in the middle of the ocean. A San Francisco nonprofit is aiming to cut down on the plastic waste while keeping people hydrated. Joining us now is Alexis van Gelder, the executive director and founder of 1,000 Fountains. Alexis, thanks so much for joining us on this Earth Day.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Why 1,000 fountains?
Why 1,000 fountains? That's a good question. It's a lot of drinking fountains for San Francisco, but just in San Francisco alone, we consume 300 million single-use plastic water bottles per year. And only 10% of those plastic water bottles are recycled. So, the rest end up, as you mentioned, in landfills, the ocean, our beaches, and the rest of our environment. That's not a sustainable model. We have to do something different. And what we're doing is we want to build drinking fountains all across the city of San Francisco. So as the name says, 1,000 fountains, 1,000 drinking fountains spread out across the city of San Francisco would put every person in the city within a 3-minute walk from a drinking fountain.
When you say that those are the numbers here in San Francisco, it's shocking because San Francisco is a very green and environmentally friendly city, and really the Bay Area is as a whole. When you think about just our region, our green, environmentally friendly region, using that many bottles, I can only imagine what it is on a global scale in areas where people aren't as environmentally conscious.
Right. Yeah. So 300 million averages out to about 220 single-use plastic water bottles per person in San Francisco. And that's not just residents, that's people who work in the city and people who visit the city. So we averaged it out. So that's about one plastic water bottle 4 days a week per person that visits the city. That's actually less than the national average. But the problem is they aren't recycled in a high enough number. In fact, recycling numbers have gone down over the years because financially it's actually cheaper to produce virgin plastic than to recycle that plastic. It's actually a costly process.
So has recycling gone down because people are not recycling, or is it because, let's say, recycling companies themselves are just not getting paid to do it as often? Because again, I think here in San Francisco and a lot of people on the West Coast are very conscious, and we do throw our bottles in the blue recycle bin, but that's all we can do on our end. Is it just not getting recycled once it gets to the process of being recycled?
Absolutely. I think the people are doing what they think is right. They're all recycling. They're being conscious. The problem is there's just no financial benefit for those at the other end. We used to sell our plastic waste overseas, and several years ago, one of our big buyers was in China. They actually have so much waste that they generate themselves that they actually stopped buying our plastic waste. So it's staying on our shores, and we're looking for buyers. And so there's just no more. A lot of the bales of plastic are sitting at our port in Oakland, waiting for a buyer. It's just not a sustainable model. So we have to try something new.
And sustainability really is the key with all this. Now, why did you choose to do this project in San Francisco?
So San Francisco is actually a great place to start a project like this. First of all, we have great tasting water. We have very safe and clean, great tasting water in San Francisco. And so that's a crucial piece. If you don't have that to start with, you're sort of wasting your time, and you're not going to convince people to actually use drinking fountains, let alone the tap in their own homes. So you have to start with that. The second piece is San Francisco is a very pedestrian city. People walk everywhere, they run, they're just very outdoorsy people. And those are the people who would actually use these drinking fountains.
It's definitely an outdoorsy city, and we do have the weather that kind of encourages us to be outdoors, which is great. You talk about it just costs less to make new plastic than it does to recycle. Cost is a big factor. What about the cost with regard to these fountains? How expensive will it be to install these 1,000 fountains, and how do you plan on getting funding to do so?
Right. So we've sort of averaged out what the cost would be, and for 1,000 drinking fountains, we already have around 80 drinking fountains. The city of San Francisco is already investing small amounts of money, around $300,000 over the next couple years to build out 10 to 15 drinking fountains. But for a project this size, we're looking at somewhere around $30 million to do that. So that would be a one-time investment of $30 million. And when you compare that number to the fact that people in San Francisco spend over $500 million every year to buy single-use plastic water bottles, when you compare the two, it's really a drop in the bucket, no pun intended.
Absolutely, and it really is just a matter of kind of putting up that money up front and then saving it down the line, whereas I think a lot of people may think, oh wow, that's so much money, but when you do the calculation over time, it's a lot more money spent in the long run. Now, I understand you've designed your own drinking fountain. There are a number of drinking fountains on the market. Why did you decide to design one, and how is your fountain different than, let's say, some of the other ones on the market?
Right. So let me just tell you that we had no intention of designing a drinking fountain ourselves. We didn't want to. But after conducting surveys in the city with people about, why, what are your concerns about public drinking fountains? One of the responses, and this is pre-COVID, one of the major responses that we got was, we're worried about germs. We're worried about pushing the button and getting, some kind of bacteria or virus. And so hygiene and safety were top of mind for people that we spoke with. So we knew from the very beginning that if we were going to find a drinking fountain, it would have to alleviate that concern. And unfortunately, we didn't find anything on the market that satisfied those concerns. In the end, we tried to work with some current drinking fountain manufacturers, and they were not interested, essentially. So we basically had to start from zero and design a drinking fountain, keeping the health and safety of people at front of mind as far as our design was concerned. So this drinking fountain, I haven't found anything, like I said, on the market that is anything like this. So this is a completely touch-free drinking fountain. It's powered by a solar panel on top, and it's got motion sensors. So if you have a bottle of water that you want to fill up, you can do that without touching anything. If you want to get a drink out of the fountain, you don't have to touch anything. The sensor will sense it, and when you get close, and the water will start to flow. Same thing if you have a pet. So if you have a pet, your pet's just going to drink the water while you wave your hand over the sensor.
I do think that a lot of the animal lovers will be excited about the drinking fountain for the pet, because you take your pet on a walk and your dog gets tired, and you either carry one of those portable bowls with a bottle with you, or you have access to one of these fountains, which makes things so much easier. People were concerned about germs touching their hands. Is there a way to know that the water coming out of the spout is not in some way contaminated? Because unfortunately, this is, we say this is why we can't have nice things, but people, want to do things, this and that and the other. Is there a way to kind of ensure that the water that they do get from these fountains is going to be clean?
Right. So we start off with what I said earlier, which is San Francisco's water is already very safe and clean, and it's tested daily. In addition to that, what we decided to do was incorporate a UV disinfection system inside the fountain. So every drinking fountain will have a UV disinfection system as an additional backup to make sure that the water coming out is as safe and clean as possible.
You guys have really thought about everything with regard to this. It's amazing. Now, when will all these fountains be installed? When can we kind of start seeing them popping up?
Right, so we're currently manufacturing the very first one right now. So we're very excited about that. We should have it in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And we're looking for a place to install it right now. And we'll be excited to, once we have it in the ground, to get it tested out and get feedback from the public. And then we want to go into sort of larger production to get 10, 20, 30 drinking fountains installed every few months.
Do us a favor, when you start installing that first one, let us know, because I would love to kind of just see the start of this whole project, really coming to life here in the city. Alexis, if people watching right now are excited about this project, which I'm sure many people are, especially on this Earth Day, what can they do today to get involved?
Right. So the most important thing we can do today is show that there's public support for this project. Right now, we need to show City Hall that people want these drinking fountains around the city. And so if you go to our website, 1000fountains.org, you can actually go to 1000fountains.org/pledge. And you can literally click on a button that says, I support building 1,000 drinking fountains in San Francisco. The other thing you can do is if you want to do something today to make a difference, you can pledge to stop buying single-use plastic water bottles. The other thing you could do is donate. We need money to help fund these drinking fountains, and the money all goes towards building these fountains. And if you want to spread the word, there's other ways to do that. Via social media helps. So, if you want to jump on social media and tweet or, write about it, that would always help. And lastly, if you have extra time on your hands and you want to help out and you're motivated by this project, you can always contact us. We're always looking for motivated volunteers to help us out.
I will say, with regard to not buying any more single-use plastic, I mean, there are so many reusable canisters and bottles that keep your water hot and cold. Because I know for me, when I buy a cold bottle of water, it warms up very quickly. So it's more cost-effective, it's more user-friendly. If you want to keep your water cold, there's so many bottles and canisters that actually do that those plastic bottles really aren't even needed. And when you buy those 24 packs from the car, it's very difficult to carry from the car into the house. So that's one less thing to have to worry about. Alexis, is there anything else you want to leave our viewers with?
I think I pretty much said it all. I appreciate you having me on, and I just hope that people show their support for this project.
Absolutely. Well, we here at KRON 4 and KRON On, we definitely support it. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.